Hello and welcome to AEF TV in association with Engerati. I'm now joined by Peter, who's the General Manager in Business Development at Altaaqa Global. Peter, welcome. Thank you for making the time to be here. We've had 2.5 days of a very busy conference, and one of the things that has come out in a lot of the interviews I've had is obviously by the sort of rural nature in Africa, there are certain instances where power needs to be provided in I don't want to say temporary way, but in an in situ way, in terms of either what in the Western world would be called emergency power. In Africa, it's the only way to do it. Yeah. And what I'd like to ask you is, because there are a number of people who do that, but what do you think are the issues around providing power in that sort of way?
Well, giving answer to your question, thank you very much for this interview, by the way. Giving answer to this question is that the power necessity in Africa has changed over the last 10, 15 years dramatically. It has really made a 180 downturn, where before the power was needed for the industry, and they were much more focused on industry than it was everywhere else. The industry in general placed around the capitals, around the large cities. What happened is that there is now a transition. There is a transition of the industrial need into a social need in Africa. And socially need, meaning that people, they need the power what before was needed only for, and was focused only for industry. That brings a different type of responsibility for the politicians and for the leaders of the countries.
Yeah.
Those people are the ones who vote for the president and who vote for the members of the parliament. And you see that transition is going fast, meaning that this is now getting an emergency for them to bring the power. The most important issue, I believe, in Africa at this moment is how to get the power to the customers, how to get the power to the people. Effort has been made to construct power plants, to construct dams and all these. But the real problem they are facing now is how to get to the houses of the people, how to distribute in such an important way, how to distribute that power to the customer itself.
Yeah.
We have a solution for that. As Altaaqa Global, we have a solution for that by providing power, by bringing a solution, a power solution to their customer, by installing and generating power very close to the end customers. So we have developed a substation package on which we don't need a substation of the utility company as such to evacuate the power generated.
So how does that work? So you've got an area and say, okay, we're gonna let's talk hypothetically. We're going to power this community. The community has 20 houses or whatever it is, one of your units comes in, and then you lay cables to all the houses, I would imagine. So one of my questions is, how does that get done in a sustainable way? I'm not arguing that there are certain instances where that is perhaps the only need or the only way for the next year to supply that community, but how does it become sustainable?
It becomes sustainable in a way that in a very short period of time we can bring the power to the customer. And sustainable meaning that meanwhile the utility has the time to build their own infrastructure. We will not bring an infrastructure meaning we connect the houses into the system. What we do is we isolate the system if needed, and we generate power only for the customers of that system, giving more power to the other systems which has been before connected to that one. The sustainability is not directly by us. The sustainability is that we give time to the utilities to build their own, while having the same quality of delivery, what the customer is expecting, by isolating the problem and generating for them the...
And is this because what you were talking about earlier, just slightly off air, is like going, your solutions are always built to the same standard as a grid, a subgrid, a substation, and that so that when the utility does arrive, with the pylon arrives and we're ready, they can plug into a ready distribution network that's already been done.
Or they can plug into a system which has been maintained and which has been delivered the electricity, what the customers need. I don't like the emergency because the whole of Africa is emerging at this moment.
Yeah.
The power need is such tremendously high that even yesterday or the day before, Her Excellency the Ambassador of South Africa was saying that only 18% of the population in Africa has access to electricity. It's not meaning that they are connected to the electricity.
But
that 18%, I believe only a quarter has electricity during 24 hours a day and during 360 days a year. So if you bring that into relation, we have a solution on which we cannot solve the African problem. I don't have the arrogancy saying I have a solution for that, but we can solve some isolated spots by bringing a power to solution, what we prefer to say, by installing our generators.
And you're part of a mix of ways we need to. So your systems run on diesel, gas, or
and a combination of the two.
Right.
And we are now prospecting the market for HFO as well.
Right.
There are some difficulties, to be honest. In a traditional diesel power plant, by trucks, you can bring the diesel to the power plant, wherever the power plant is. In the case of gas and in the case of HFO, you have to bring the power plant to the gas.
Yeah.
And this is another mindset. This is another approach of the situation. So if you are in a very isolated system, traditionally you will go with diesel because you can have the diesel by trucks and by tankers you can have it. If you really have to do the base load for a big city, then we prefer to do that at the power station where they have already the gas and where we connect. Altaaqa Global, they have the gas engines, they have also the diesel engines, and what we have as well is what we call the dual fuel, on which we burn 30% of diesel and 70% of gas in the same engine, giving more a better critical mass and a critical response, which a gas engine does not have traditionally.
And does that then give a better output per input?
Yeah, it gives a more economical output, but it gives more stability, generation stability, by that critical mass of the two. It's following better the power demand. We have a system now installed which we call, and this is our acronym for an IPP, an independent power producer. And we prefer to say intelligently producing power.
Right.
And we do that in a way that we switch on and switch off generators according to needs. And believe me, to our experience and all the others, a generator who is not functioning is not consuming diesel.
Yes.
Yeah? And we use that characteristic. If we look into the power consumption of the fuel consumption, we look more in the dynamics of the power plant rather than a singular generator set with its own consumption. And we always try to configure our power plant in such a way that it is the most fuel economical. And we are the most fuel economical. It has been proved that we are by far the most economical power solution provider in terms of fuel consumption than the others.
By having that ability to be intelligent, as you say, within the network. Can I just jump off and ask you a hypothetical question? And that you might turn around and say, well, actually this is already happening. But based on what you're saying, and the world is going through a place where people are innovating business models all over the place. Can you see the potential for a community to come directly to someone like you guys and say, listen, there are 1,000 of us or whatever. you know, we need power. We're willing to, we think we can pay you, I don't know, X amount per month. Will you, on a service level agreement, come in and install and solve that issue?
It's a very interesting question, and I have been discussing, not in Africa, but in India lately.
Yeah.
I have been discussing with some distribution companies, and we propose the same. In big, large cities where you see a conglomeration of hotels, for instance. All these hotels, they have a generator set during the off hours, during the peak hours, a generator set running in parallel with the grid, only to provide the quality to their guests.
Yes.
In terms of electricity. And in terms of that the elevators are functioning, in terms of that the customer can get a cold beer at the bar when they need, in this type of comfort. And we have been discussing with the distribution, and these companies, these power consumers, they probably pay a premium to be secured of a secured power.
Sure.
I see that happening in Africa as well. I think that power distribution will come into a power purchase agreement, and we can deliver that. We can secure a quality delivery to their customers. And I believe that we are not that far away that will happen. Traditionally, the government-owned utilities, they have a longer response time to the problems due to the political influence, due to the budgetary influences than these companies can have. I can see that a conglomerate of industries together, they decide to buy power. By the way, this is happening in Europe already, where industrial zones, they go to the markets and by a tender process, they buy power from whoever it is.
Yeah.
I can see that model will work in Africa as well. And I am a very big sponsor to that idea.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we'll leave it because we've come to the end of our time here. Thank you very much for talking to us. I certainly enjoyed talking to you. I wish we had a bit more time, but we're trying to keep these to 10 to 15 minutes.
After hours, we still
exactly. We may do a follow-up the next time we meet, perhaps in Istanbul. Thank you as well for watching. It's been AEF TV and in association with Engerati. By now you'll know this, but you may be watching this video for the first time, so you can get this on the AEF website, the EnergyNet website, as well as Engerati. Thanks for watching.